The conference room was buzzing as the team settled in for their first meeting. Team project leader Tony Randzinger sat at the table, marker in hand, and the is not analysis template prominently displayed. This wasn't just a problem solving tool, it was the foundation of the project. This, he began, pointing to the template, is how we're going to start turning our invoice payment process around. It's crucial we get the problem defined correctly before jumping to conclusions. We've got 3 months to make a real impact. So let's start by answering these is not questions. Tony scanned the room, catching the expressions of each team member. Sam Goodwin, ever precise, had his notepad open and pen poised. Taylor Bartell was already drumming her fingers against the table, her impatience noticeable. Chris Logan, the accounts payable manager, looked exhausted but determined, and Alex Poles, the strategic buyer, leaned back with relaxed confidence. First question, he said, turning to the template. What is the problem? Sam was the first to respond, his tone measured. Late invoices lead to cash flow issues. The delayed payments are hurting our bottom line. Taylor nodded, but quickly interjected. And what is not the problem? This isn't about product defects or quality control. Exactly, Tony said, writing their answers on Post-it notes. It's important to define what this project isn't addressing so we can stay focused. Now, where is the problem occurring? Chris straightened in her chair, her voice steady but tinged with frustration. It's mainly purchasing and product design, and they impact our vendors. Communication is inconsistent at best and sloppy at worst. That's helpful, Tony said, jotting down her response. Now, who is affected by this? Alex leaned forward, his easy demeanor giving way to a more serious tone. Everyone in the supply chain feels it. When payments are delayed, it creates a ripple effect. Vendors are upset, relationships sour, and eventually it all circles back to us. Taylor let out a long sigh, twirling her pen between her fingers. Can we just get to the solutions already? We already all know what's wrong. Tony smiled, keeping his tone calm. Patience, Taylor. I get it. Jumping to solutions feels more productive. But if we don't build the right foundation, our fixes will likely be short-lived. We need to trust the process. She rolled her eyes, but sat back, conceding the point. Now, when does the problem occur? He continued, redirecting the discussion. Chris was quick to respond. At the end of the term agreements, most of them are net 30, so the scramble starts around day 29. Alex shrugged. It's a mix. Sometimes vendors don't send complete invoices. Other times, purchasing doesn't process them fast enough, and accounts payable gets stuck in the middle. Tony nodded, turning back to the template on the table. And now let's examine what isn't causing the delays. He asked, pressing for more clarity. Sam chimed in. It's not a systems issue. The tools we have, like VXZ, procurement software, are basically working fine. The problem is entirely human: miscommunications, missing information, and delayed approvals. Great insights, Tony said, stepping back to review the growing list of answers on the template. The team was engaged, even if some members were more enthusiastic than others. They motored through the remaining questions, adding more detail and filling in gaps. By the end of the session, the template was full, and the room felt lighter, as if the act of dissecting the problem had already lifted some of the weight from their shoulders. All right, Tony said, capping the marker and turning to the group. This is a strong start. The clearer we define the problem, the better equipped we'll be able to solve it. Great work, everyone. Taylor stretched and smirked. So, can we start fixing things now? Tony chuckled, appreciating her persistence. Not yet, but soon. Next, we'll refine the problem statement and map out the process. As the team began to gather their things, he couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and apprehension. This was only the first step, but it was a good one. The true challenge would come in the days ahead. Tony, Chris said as she lingered near the door, thanks for listening today. It's nice to feel like someone's actually paying attention to what's really happening on the ground. He smiled. That's my job, Chris. We can't fix what we don't understand. With that, the team dispersed, leaving Tony alone in the conference room. Tony stared at the template, the answers staring back at him like pieces of a puzzle. The picture wasn't clear yet, but he could feel that things were taking shape. Tony didn't waste any time heading to Pat's office for their scheduled meeting. With her VP role and the pressures that she faced, punctuality wasn't just polite, it was essential. Knock, knock, he said, knocking lightly on her open door frame. Pat looked up from her computer, her face lit by the glow of the screen. Come in, Tony. I'm eager to hear how things are going with the team. Great, he said, stepping in and taking a seat. First off, thank you for assigning Chris and Alex to the project. They're bringing valuable insights to the table, and their expertise is going to be crucial as we move forward. Pat leaned back in her chair, exhaling as if releasing some of the weight she carried. They've been working hard to clear their schedules for this project. I told them it's top priority. And it shows, Tony said. We've made some solid progress so far. We just finished the is not analysis, and we'll be working on the problem statement next. The team dynamic is a good mix, and everyone brings a unique perspective. Pat nodded, but let out a small sigh. That's encouraging, Tony, but if I'm being honest, we need to move faster. The management team is breathing down my neck. Our shareholders are not pleased with the drop in the cash flow margin. They want results yesterday. They're frustrated. I get it, said Tony, shaking his head. You see, over the past 5 years, Pat reflected, we've tried several times to fix the problem. We upgraded VXZ, our enterprise resource planning software. We sent firm notices to late payers, and we reduced multiple payment options down to only one way to pay. None of the efforts ever solved the problem. In fact, our problem has gotten worse. Tony could feel the pressure. He took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. I hear you, Pat, and I understand the urgency, but my approach is focused on improving the entire invoice process front to back. If we rush, we risk solving only the symptoms, not the root cause. Pat's expression softened, but the stress on her voice didn't disappear. I trust you, Tony. Just remember, we need to see significant improvement by the end of the quarter. I understand, he replied, leaning forward slightly. We'll focus on stopping the bleeding right away. But I also want to make sure we're building a system that prevents these issues from happening again. Isolated quick fixes won't hold up in the long run. Pat gave a small, weary smile. That's exactly why I picked you for this project. If anyone can strike that balance, it's you. Just let me know if there's anything you need. Resources, time, anything. Will do, he said, standing. And thanks for the vote of confidence. I won't let you down. As he left the office, Tony felt the weight of the responsibilities settle more firmly on his shoulders. The stakes were high, and the clock was ticking, but he couldn't let that push him into cutting corners. This wasn't just about numbers or shareholders. It was about people, processes, and performance. The projection screen stood as a centerpiece for the second team meeting. The information from the is not analysis template was now populated on a spreadsheet. The information allowed the team to clearly isolate what is and what isn't in scope. The team carefully reviewed the final details of the template one more time, row by row. For the time being, the team agreed that the company had late invoices involving purchasing and product design, impacting the entire supply chain and accounts payable, hitting its peak on day 29 each month. Before the project started, Tony heard dozens of fragmented theories about what was causing the problem. It felt good to see some clarity actually emerge from the process. The team finally had enough evidence to describe the scene of the crime. Still, there were lingering questions. Small details needed to be verified before they could come to any firm conclusions. But it was a great first step. Tony turned to the team. All right, let's work on drafting our problem statement. A solid problem statement will set the tone for the entire project, so it's worth getting it right. To get us started, I thought I'd take the liberty to write our first draft. He walked to the whiteboard and started writing. You could hear the marker squeaking on the board. The increase in the late invoices is disrupting cash flow and impacting budgets for new projects. So what do you think? He asked. Sam leaned forward, studying the words with a critical eye. It's solid, he said with a nod. Clear, concise, and focused on the key issue. Taylor tapped her pen against her notebook, her expression thoughtful. I like it. But do you think it's capturing the human side enough? Employees are frustrated too, right? Maybe we could add something about the communication breakdowns making their jobs harder. That's a great point, Taylor, Tony said, feeling a surge of appreciation for her perspective. A problem statement isn't always just about numbers. It's also about pain points employees experience. So, how could we add your thoughts to the problem statement and still keep it clear and concise? Asked Tony. Taylor pursed her lips together. We could say the increase in late invoices is disrupting cash flow, impacting budgets for new projects, and making employee and vendor jobs harder. Would that work? Tony looked around the table. She struck a chord. Everyone was nodding. For a brief moment, something special happened. No one forced an idea. No one defended a position. No one tried to win the discussion. The team was simply building on each other's thinking. And suddenly the team could see the entire problem more clearly. Your addition does make it more comprehensive, Tony added. And it's still concise too, Chris smiled. But remember, Tony added, scanning the room, we're not jumping to any solutions yet. We need absolute clarity before we can take action. What's next? Alex asked, leaning back in his chair with his casual demeanor. "We're going to map out the process," Tony replied. "It'll help us better understand the key steps of the invoice workflow." Taylor's face lit up at the mention of mapping. Finally, something visual. Tony smiled, feeling the team's momentum build. "We'll start mapping the process in our next meeting." "What kind of map, you might ask?" "I will give you a hint. I want everyone thinking about our suppliers, inputs, outputs, and our customers involved in this process." The meeting wrapped up and Tony left the room feeling optimistic. The team was beginning to gel, and he could sense the shift. Tony's thoughts shifted to Dorothy Bronte and her famous quote, "A problem clearly stated is a problem half solved." He nodded his head. Moments like this reveal how we respond to pressure. No one is immune. We all feel it sometimes. In the beginning, Tony could feel the pressure in the room, in the people, and in himself. Moments like this show us something. Leading under pressure isn't about showing everyone that you were right. Attempting to rapidly fix a large company problem happens frequently in the workplace. The temptation to solve problems quickly is certainly understandable. However, having the discipline to take a step back and get a better understanding first is essential for long-term problem solving. With this perspective, they were able to write a clear, concise, and compelling problem statement. Moments like this can happen more often than we think, on the field, in the workplace, and in life. Tony focused hard on keeping everyone involved. Taylor's brave suggestion was a true moment of magic. When the meeting ended, you could feel the bond building between the team members. They were all on the same page. As a result, Tony's hidden nerves slowly melted away. Because as a leader, he broke the pressure down, step by step. And when a team is led properly, its members can find the courage to shine new light on a misunderstood problem.